Welcome to Awakening Soul Truth. I'm Allison Ledbetter, and I have a guest. This is Samantha. Robbie is out of town. She is on a trip to visit her father to bring him into better health. So she is taking care of her lovely family, and we are doing an interview today with this beautiful woman because she has been going through the awakening process like no other person I've ever seen. It's been a serious journey of instant awakening.
Yes, definitely. Happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you. We met in February this past year, so we've known each other for, 4 months?
I guess so. Yeah.
And prior to that, Samantha's history is that she used to be part of the Army. And I'd like to just know a little bit what that life was like.
Yeah, so I went to the Army immediately after high school. I went to a military academy and commissioned into military intelligence and did that for the past 5 years. I just got out this past January and have been transitioning from all of that, and spirituality's been a big part of it.
Yeah, so you started to experience some spirituality, like when and how? Do you want to describe that piece?
Yeah, I started getting into spirituality in 2019 when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I think just generally starting a family changes anybody, but I felt a lot more connected to the divine. I was very interested in learning more about the senses that we all have, because I was acutely aware that I was pregnant well before any test would have told me. And I felt very connected.
Cool.
Yeah. So I was excited about that, and I just really wanted to learn more about the soul, what we're doing here. And so I really just turned to a lot of books and started reading as much as possible. I couldn't get enough of it. And I realized that as I was going, it really just felt like remembering. It felt like I was finally finding truth about things.
Oh, cool.
And so I was really excited about that.
So you started to feel maybe the what the books were saying?
Yes.
What was your favorite book? Or what was I don't know if you can have a favorite because so many hit different areas, but what books stand out to you from that time?
I think the very first book I read that really changed things for me was The Power of Now. That was awesome. That book kind of gave me permission to realize that there's more than just our ego, and that the observation or the awareness of a thought isn't the same thing as a thought. Like, you are deeper than that. And so once I was able to understand what it meant to observe myself and kind of separate and realize how grand we are as spiritual beings, it really just changed my outlook entirely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you start meditating then when you were pregnant?
I did. That's when I first started learning about it. It helped me tremendously. I started realizing that my heart rate was going down because I was really nervous being a first-time mom and being pregnant.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. That was kind of how I started to realize that, wow, doing meditation has a physical effect on the body too.
And it really is impressive. And it changes anxiety.
Yes, it helped me a
Right.
lot.
I mean, I think that was the most notable for me. And when I currently have anxiety, I need to meditate. It's one of those tools that you have to use for the rest of time, really. You also had a period where you got really, really ill.
I did.
Was this before the kids or after the kids?
It was after the second.
Okay. So you were actually still in the military when you got pregnant and had your kids.
Yes, both of them were born while I was in the Army.
Okay. And her husband also is in the Army, so they were an Army family. And then some illness came and greatly affected your life.
Yeah, it did. Kind of came out of nowhere. So I came back in May of 21. I was starting a new position, but I was starting in this new building, and I didn't realize that the pipes had burst in the building in the winter time, because that's when Texas was hit with the really, really bad ice storm.
Oh, right. When all the fish froze and everything froze.
A lot of people died. It was bad. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the building that I went to work in was hit really hard with that. A lot of pipes burst. There was a lot of flooding and water damage that hadn't really been addressed. And so I started working. Right away, I started noticing that my body was not doing well. It started really small, like neurological things, like eye twitches, things that you could kind of dismiss. But then it got more and more significant over time. And so I'd gone to the doctor. I thought I had some sort of vitamin deficiency. I was thinking I was anemic maybe, or B12 or something. I had no idea. But nothing was helping, and no one really knew what was going on.
And none of the tests came back in deficiencies in any place?
Right.
Okay.
Everything was pretty normal on that front, which was really just frustrating because it felt like things were going downhill, but nobody was.
So there's been so many women, especially, that have had illnesses like you're describing, and nobody can find the causation of them.
Yeah.
And the woman you trained in Reiki with, she also experienced a mystery illness, and it turns out that hers was due to mold. And was this what yours was?
At least in part, yeah. So eventually, so I had to do a lot of research on my own to try to figure out what was going on with me.
Right, and that's one of the biggest things. People taking their health into their own hands because they're not saying it's real. Sometimes it's even denied for people that they're ill.
Absolutely.
And they're having strong physical reactions, and they make you think you're crazy, and you're like, I'm not crazy. I'm literally having physical symptoms that I can't explain.
Yes, they continue to tell me that it was probably just postpartum depression or something to that effect, and I knew that wasn't it. But so I really started doing my own research. I started learning about chronic inflammatory response syndrome and how it relates to toxic overload, and it can come from mold, it can come from water damage, things like that. It can come from stress, things that are going on in your life, and basically your system gets overwhelmed to the point that your body gets stuck in a fight or flight response.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when that happens, the other normal processes that go on in your body are no longer a priority, because if your brain, your system thinks it's being attacked or chased by something, then that's not a priority. It's only focusing on this. And so that's why my health was starting to deteriorate, and I was not functioning how I needed to. And so I found this out on my own. I finally was able to convince them to do mold testing on me, and I tested positive for every single one that they tested me for.
Great.
So,
gosh, I'm so glad you figured out that there's a toxic overload of some sort. Okay.
Yes, so that was big. Unfortunately, I was not able to be removed from the building at all. Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, it was a adventure with that. But I knew one of the things that I've learned in this journey is that when you talk about like mold toxicity and things like that, it is generally not understood in traditional medicine. Most people, when they think of mold and things like that, they think of allergies, not that your physical system can get so overwhelmed that it's not functioning properly. It wasn't an allergy response that I was having. My body was physically shutting down. They thought I had MS at one point. I went to the emergency room 7 different times.
Oh my God.
My arms, I lost strength in my arms. I was having facial paralysis. Eventually, I developed multiple chemical sensitivity, which is another thing that's generally not accepted in traditional medicine. But I couldn't walk into a room that had a lit candle, or if someone was wearing perfume, without having debilitating pain throughout my entire body. Anything that had a toxic smell, like if the candle was artificially scented, or I remember trash bags, like the scents that they put on trash bags, it would cause a very physical reaction. I would get hives that would just not go away. I would have flu symptoms constantly. a migraine pretty much from the moment I went vertical for the day. It was really hard. I got to the point where I couldn't put my kids in their car seats anymore.
Wow. And there are people out there that have experienced this extreme. So now, how did you start to heal? What started to change for you?
So once I figured out that your environment can actually make you sick, and that the things that we interact with on a daily basis actually get a vote in our health, whether it's toxic chemicals that you're using to clean your house, or if your home's infected with mold, or whatever it is. Once I realized that, I set out to try to figure out how to heal it. And I actually joined several online communities, I think even on Facebook, just like mold toxicity support, just to learn what people were experiencing.
It's so good to know that those are out there.
Because
mold toxicity groups.
It's really common, unfortunately. And it's not even just mold. There are ways to help yourself. So I found one of these communities, and I was starting to learn more, listening to people's stories. But I realized that there wasn't a lot of hope in these communities. It's like they were coming from this place of fear. They knew what was causing them to be ill. They went and worked with these providers that, 6 months or longer at a time to detox them and do these really intense regimens to heal them. But the aftermath was, if you walk into a place that has mold ever in your life, you just go right back into it. Mold exists, and mold exists everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So these people had not seen family members in years, because it's in a lot of people's houses.
Oh, this is so heartbreaking.
It was, and I was realizing these people were so stuck in this place, and I'm like, there has to be another way.
Okay.
There has to be another way.
So you started to be like, I know I have the power to heal my body or heal this situation, because you didn't want to become hopeless or stuck. Okay, and you had 2 small kids. I mean, when you have kids, it's like, I got to figure this out. I got to fight for my life, because otherwise it becomes a shit show for everybody involved.
Absolutely. And they were so little, I had to find something. So I just started reading, and I learned as much as possible. And I found that I started learning about neuroplasticity and the brain's ability to change itself, and how it can physically change what's happening in your body. And all of that is incredibly fascinating. And
yes, we've mentioned neuroplasticity a couple of times, because it is the ability to actually change the wiring of the neural connections in your brain, and thought does that. And learning how that the electrons that are spinning don't spin around the nucleus unless thought is there in the first place.
Absolutely.
So that's a really cool concept, that your thought actually causes the very first part of an atom to move. Absolutely. So whatever you're thinking, it actually becomes physical.
It's incredibly powerful. And so as I was learning about this, I was realizing that even though I wasn't consciously aware of the fact that I was in a fight or flight response, my body and my brain very much knew it. And so something as small as a candle was triggering a panic response, and that's why I was having all the pain and things like that. And so I had to rewire to fix it. Yeah.
So you didn't change it externally in. You didn't try to control all the physical stuff that could cause your pain.
I did go see an alternative medicine provider who really was wonderful, and these people do really good work, and I realized that they help a lot of people. But at one point, I was on 13 different supplements. My entire dining room table was entirely covered with pills, things that were supposed to support my detox and heal. At one point, I was supposed to do this tincture, but I could only handle 1/8 of a drop, because it would give me flu symptoms for 3 days if I had more than that.
Oh.
I was that sensitive. Like, everything was causing me to react. And so I just got to the point where I realized that if I was going to actually heal, I had to do it from the inside out. And I don't recommend this for everyone because this was just my journey, but I stopped absolutely all medication entirely.
Right. Yeah. We're not doctors, so we can't recommend this. This is her healing journey.
Entirely mine. That was just
but awesome. That is what's worked.
It is. Yeah.
And so you stopped were you on any medication maybe from a traditional doctor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a lot of prescriptions to help with the migraines.
Okay, so you were actually doing some symptom recovery.
Yeah.
Were you on anything for postpartum because that's what they were claiming some of this was?
No, they tried and I refused because I didn't want. No. Because I knew that's not what it was. And I'm like, I'm not going to take something for that because that's not what this is. But.
Okay. So you surrendered to your inner wisdom. Or describe that. What did you first find when you were inside?
Yeah, well,
because you want to rewire yourself. Is that what you're saying? You want to actually do the neuroplasticity and heal yourself.
Yes, and I think it was critical for me to realize that, and this one insight has really changed my life, is that I was responsible for healing myself. It wasn't going to be the traditional medicine doctor. It wasn't going to be my alternative medicine provider, who was, I mean, these people exist to support and try to make people better. I had to do it.
And that's such a key thing that we all need to take charge of. We have to be at the center of our healing because nobody can know all the components and all the nuances and pieces except for you. And you can absolutely use many different pieces to heal. Many, but you're right. It gets down to that place of, this is my journey. I'm responsible for it.
Absolutely. There are so many paths to healing. And that's such a beautiful thing. I'm glad you said that. But yeah, so it was big for me. I really did. I kind of threw it all away and I said, I have to do this. I have to do it like this. And so I had learned about a program that kind of taught rewiring through, I guess mindfulness would be a good way to put it. I didn't know at the time because I was new to spirituality and meditation, but I was doing some sort of meditation with light and visualizing light coming in and healing my body.
Nice. What was the name of that program? Do you remember?
Yes, it's called DDRS. It stands for the Dynamic Neural Retraining System by a woman named Annie Hopper. She's amazing. So, because she experienced it herself. She got incredibly sick for a bunch of mystery things that nobody understood, and she had to figure it out. So
nice. And DNRS has become pretty well known. It's not like an obscure thing that's hard to find. You can find it really readily. I have a book on it upstairs.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Oh, of course.
Oh my god.
All right.
Okay.
Did you use any positive affirmations or statements?
Oh, a ton.
Okay, what did you use?
And I did have to tweak the program to fit my life.
Again, that's taking ownership of who you are.
Yes.
So tweak away.
Tweak away. Yeah, and just to fit what was realistic, because while all of this was going on, I still had to go to work every single day and exist in the same building. I started to feel better the moment that I believed I could. And that program gave me permission to believe that.
Nice.
And so I held on to that, and I knew that it was going to work out. But yes, I did a ton of affirmations. The program really teaches you a lot of really deep visualization too. It's all about cultivating joy and love and feeling that and seeing it, healing your cells. And so I did a lot of remembering really positive experiences and just sitting in that. And then you would project forward and try to imagine something in the future, like you healthy and renewed, doing something that you want to do.
Oh, that's beautiful. Healed. That's beautiful. So many healers have come to that conclusion, that you couple the feeling of joy and the feeling of health with a positive affirmation. And that's how you actually retrain it. And visualizing. So it's not just a hope. It's not just a flat word. It's actually feeling it and then using the words and using the visual picture.
It took a lot of work, it was challenging, because when you're rewiring, I mean, your brain is wired to keep you in that place.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's what happens. It's electricity, it's energy. Once pathways are created that cause physical symptoms, regardless of what the cause is, you have to be very deliberate about creating new pathways, because the electricity, the energy, will continue to follow the path of least resistance.
Right.
Where it has always gone.
And you can feel defeated in the process of rebuilding the new world, rebuilding the new reality.
Absolutely.
Because the other one comes back and you're like, seriously? I've had it swing back so hard where you're just like, you meditate and you get in that great place, and then you stand up and it's just like, whoa. Yeah. It's like, oh, come on. And that is part of that journey of really being disciplined and doing it many times a day.
Every single day. I think one of my affirmations was, I am healthy, I am strong, I can go anywhere and do anything. And I know that sounds big, but just because I couldn't go into a candle store without having a reaction. So,
and I can go anywhere.
Yeah.
You healed yourself.
I did. And yeah, I mean, there were so many days where it was really hard, but even on those days, I found that just faking it helped. And that sounds silly, but that's a really important part of rewiring.
I don't think it's faking it. I think it's practicing.
It is.
I've heard a lot of people say fake it till you make it. And for me, it's like, I'm not faking it. I'm practicing my new reality.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I guess in terms of, I mean, it definitely is that. I just felt like some days I did not feel well enough to go out and do anything.
Right.
But
you had to carry on.
Be that person. I'm going to be the well version of me, even if I wasn't feeling it. And doing that over and over again. I love how you say that. I'm going to step into that version of me. Yeah, I'm not accepting this version. I'm going to do this.
Right.
This version.
I believe in this version. I really like to say, like, I'm doing God's version of me.
I love that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite thoughts of like, okay, I need support here. I'm going to do God's version of me.
As I was going through this, I told God, if I'm able to heal myself from this, I'm going to teach others how to do it too.
Wow.
So.
What a wonderful thing to come out of God and your relationship.
Yes.
We met in February, right? And can you describe what's happened as a result of you continuing on your awakening journey?
Yeah.
And maybe you really didn't know you were awakening. Did you know that you were awakening yet?
No.
I think it's hard to really pinpoint when we're awakening. I think awakening happens gradually and over time. Like for me, it took like 10 years to really become conscious of the fact that I was awakening, that I was going through these steps of my heart expanding and my mind expanding and the rejection of maybe traditional reality or society's version of reality. And what we're kind of awakening means is that we're coming out of the illusion. We're coming out of kind of this place where we're all in our egos and just interacting with each other almost unconsciously. And so awakening is surrendering to the heart, surrendering to your soul's version of you and the deeper picture. So you've healed yourself, and now you're going to go back to school, and you're interested in healthcare, and you want to teach that. And so then what brought you to me?
Well, after this healing journey, I've just been incredibly fascinated by the idea of healing and how people can really do it themselves. And I guess it was around the new year that I started learning about Reiki for the first time. And I had no idea what it was, but I'd heard about it from a friend, and I was immediately interested because it sounded kind of similar to what I'd been doing. And so I started down this path of realizing that
there's a whole world of healers out there.
There is, and it was fascinating because even while I was going through all of this myself, I really didn't know that it was a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
I was coming at it from a biological, neuroplasticity is like widely accepted.
Yeah.
So I just thought I was doing very physical things. I didn't really think of it as being divine.
Spiritual.
Yeah. And
how interesting. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it was like I definitely got led to learn more about Reiki, and I realized, wow, this is very related to what I did myself. And it was fascinating that there are healers that are helping people do that too. And like on an energetic level. And so I was interested. I wanted to learn how to do it, but I never had it myself. And so I found you through a friend of a friend. It's been a whole journey since then. I'm so glad we met. My first session it just completely blew my mind. Anyone who's worked with Allison would agree with that.
Happened as a result of it, I think.
Yeah. So, sorry. I'm like, okay.
Okay. So you came in February for your first session.
Yes. My first session was really awesome. I felt very relaxed afterwards, but what was most amazing to me was the changes that I felt after my session. I felt very deeply that things had shifted in me in a way that I didn't know they could shift. Surprise! And so it was my first, I guess, realization that I of my own energy, like things moving in me. I kind of knew I had a soul and I knew this, but it was like, oh, this is real.
Feel the actual energy moving.
Yes.
I remember learning that too when I went to massage school, and I actually went to a healer outside of massage school, and she said to me, go inside your body, close your eyes. You're really leaky. So I want you to like put your hand over and stop the leaks.
Wow.
And seal yourself. Yes. And I was like, whoa, I'm totally moving in here. Yeah. It was so cool. Oh, so you realized that's so cool. You realized that from me. That's so exciting.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot. But it was great. And yeah, that reminds me, because one of the biggest things that I was looking forward to and learning about Reiki, even for myself, was how to have boundaries, especially being kind of an empath, learning the difference between what my energy is and what belongs to others. And so, yeah, even the very first session, I was aware of my own energy for the first time. And it kind of started me on this path of being able to learn, like, okay, this is me, this is not me, and being able to kind of restore around that.
That's huge. To find your boundaries.
Yes. And that was just the first session.
Right. And so we've had a couple of, what's really unique about Samantha is, I think because you've already healed yourself and already had begun this journey of I'm empowered, once we started to really add in the energy part, like the higher consciousness coming down, awakening your soul, these whole worlds opened up for Samantha. So would you like to describe what's happened for you?
Yeah. I mean, things started to shift significantly every single session. And I started realizing that I was becoming more sensitive in a non-physical way. Which I realize is interesting, having come from being really sensitive to physical.
Oh, interesting.
I started becoming more sensitive to spiritual and things like that. So that's interesting.
Intuitive abilities like the clairvoyance, clairaudience, and
yes, things really started opening up. I started realizing that I was getting information from more than my normal 5 senses. And thankfully, with the work that I had done up to that point, I was very open to it and I was very excited about it. In fact, sometimes impatient at times because I was so excited to continue to learn more because it felt very natural. it always feels like remembering.
Yeah.
As things unlock, because we are spiritual beings having a physical experience.
And what that truly means is that you're remembering your soul, or you're remembering all this information that has been a little bit removed from ourselves because we are so ego bound. All right.
My meditation started getting really intense in a good way. I just started realizing it was more than just relaxing. I was able to see a lot more than before. And after one of our really big sessions, I realized that I was starting to have interactions with people who had passed away.
Yeah, that was a lot.
It was a lot. And that was new. And I was open to it, but it took some adjusting. And it's an ongoing journey figuring out how to navigate all of it. But even with that, I was really excited because I realized that I'm having these experiences for a reason.
Yeah.
And you really put me at ease in telling me that even though I might not feel like I know what I'm doing in these situations, my soul does. And that's why I'm able to do this work, because it was, I think, the night after one of our really big sessions that I helped cross over a dead person for the first time.
And you called like, hi.
Yeah, I was like, I'm glad.
What's going on?
I need to talk to you, because
So I think what's really important to recognize is that you started to really experience the spiritual realm. And can you describe to me kind of what sensory, a little bit more detail, what sensory information was coming to you besides your 5 senses?
Yeah. So smell was a big one. And that's
so you
hard
can
to describe.
Smell things in different places.
I can smell people's energy.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I love that.
And it's interesting because everyone is unique.
Yeah.
Everyone has a very signature smell.
And they have a signature energy pattern.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you've encapsulated it or captured it in the smell. I captured it in terms of like instant like body program. Like, oh, here's our energy. Like I run it through my body like an energy program, and then I release it immediately.
Oh, that's cool.
But I mean, you're doing the same thing just by smell.
Yes. And it took me a while to realize that's what's happening, but I smell on the other plane a lot, and there's often not words to describe.
Words can't describe it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really describe what you're smelling.
I can smell if someone has been impacted by mold. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
I wonder if you'll use it eventually as a diagnostic tool.
Yes, I think that's part of where it's going.
Yeah, I would think so. I can always smell if my children are sick, right? But that's in this plane. Like, I immediately am like,
yeah,
you're sick. And they're like, I'm not sick. And I'm like, oh, you're about to be sick.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, did you have any visualization happening?
Yeah, so a lot of the dead people were coming in very visually.
Okay, because that can be really, really overwhelming for people. And so you were actually seeing people that were dead. Can you describe what they were looking like? Because can you tell, this is the thing. Can you describe what it's like to see a dead person that is stuck in this realm and a being that is crossed? Because there's a difference. In
my experience, the people who are stuck here just feel much more dense.
Yeah, they're heavy.
I have interacted with spirit that was able to come here but had crossed. Like they came and then were able to go back because they knew what they were doing. They had healed in that sense. They were able to come, give their message, and then go. Yes, they come for a chat. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Wherever they're from. Yes. Okay. But the ones that are stuck, there's a heaviness associated with it. Oftentimes I'll feel like waves of what they were feeling.
Yeah.
Because it's pain, it's fear.
And they're stuck in the actual fear and the pain.
Mm-hmm.
So you can feel that as you, so you're seeing them and feeling it. I have a little bit of a barrier between seeing them and feeling them and talking to them. For me, mine's talking. So I'll just observe myself talking to someone. And that's been a little bit easier. When I do see them, the talking's first. And then if I'm going to engage it, I'll see.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because I don't like to engage it all the time. And that was something that was overwhelming for you.
Yes, that's an important part.
So what happened for Samantha is that all of a sudden these abilities were coming in. So the visualization and the feeling of other people, smelling of other people, and not associating it with physical reality, and you were overwhelmed.
Yes. It hasn't always been graceful. Just, I needed to understand that you can have boundaries, because there's definitely something on the other side that they know when they can be seen, and I guess to a point you attract it, because there was a lot of lost sleep during this time period, just because I had so many people coming to me. And so I really had to learn.
Once you open that door of healing somebody, it's like they've lined up.
Yeah, we're gut out, I guess.
It's very odd. I feel like so many times we're not seen by the other side, or we're not aware of it. But once you come into your heart and you have everything lined up, it's like you're this bridge between both worlds, right? Your human body in that now moment. Again, the now moment's going to be key in anchoring all the time. And that's what's so critical for it. And that's what I kept sharing with you. You got to come in the now. Yeah. You have to be present, because that's the only way to navigate this very, very safely and to create the boundaries, right? I mean, you can wake up. First of all, they will wake you up. They want to cross and they feel stuck.
I had to get over some fear initially, definitely, because of what I was seeing. But yes, the boundaries part has been incredibly useful in realizing that I can set the pace with things. Yep. They seem to respect it once you're clear about it.
Yeah, they do respect it. And some will pop in what are really, really desperate, or a really serious situations happen. And it's like your heartstring gets pulled and it'll come through. Yeah. A quick question. Do you feel like you're helping them?
I do.
I think that's an important piece, because it's one thing to wake up to this gift, which seemed to have come on pretty suddenly. I mean, it really felt like it happened within a month.
It did.
And so having that gift there has been hard to manage. But so do you feel like you're helping?
I do. And that's really the biggest reason that I'm able to, I think, accept it, that it's happening, because I'm not just being bombarded with things. I'm in this position to be able to help. I've learned about healing on a physical plane. I'm realizing I can help heal there too. So yes, I mean, even the very first experience was with a young man who had committed suicide a couple years ago. And it was really heavy what he was feeling, and he was stuck where he was. And I was able to talk to him. And tell him that this isn't home. You don't have to stay here. You are loved. You can go and heal, and it's time for that. And I hold their hand. Yeah. I do a lot of that to help them go. And it did. I mean, that's beautiful. It is. It's light, it's love, and you can just feel the shift happen when they're there. And I've seen them see their people on the other side and realize, oh, this is it. So. Yeah. I love that you hold their hand. I do that every time. Right? I always put my hand on their heart. So, that's really cool. People have different styles of helping heal the others on the other side. And do you feel the presence of love when you're doing this? Absolutely. Love is all of it.
Right.
Love is the light.
Yeah.
And that's where we're supposed to go. People just have to remember that they belong there.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, especially in situations like suicide, there's often so much regret. And people are stuck in that and wanting to go back. They get stuck in that moment of, oh no.
Oh yeah. It's that exact moment of death that they're like, what did I just do?
Yes. And
yeah.
And I've had a lot that are worried about not being able to see their family anymore. They're worried they have to stay in this plane to be able to see their loved ones after they passed. And it's just telling them that, like, no, you can go and heal, and you can, in that process, even become a guide for them. It'll be different, but that is where you belong. That's where healing happens.
And you can they can absolutely see us.
Yes.
Yeah. It's annoying.
Yes.
We feel like we can be seen a lot. All right. So this has been incredible. I think my last question for you before we do a meditation on awakening, because we're all awakening, is what and how did your relationship with God change kind of during this whole awakening journey?
Yeah. So when I started learning about spirituality, and I had my own experience growing up with religion, and so it's kind of been something that I grappled with for a really long time, knowing who and what God was and what my relationship was supposed to look like. So when I started learning more about spirituality, God felt very big to me. It felt like everything, and it became this very abstract essence that I didn't feel like I could directly connect with. I knew it was all things, and I know that was source, but I didn't feel like I had a personal relationship.
Right.
And so I started more
down. You could sense that it was around you, but it was... Okay.
Yes. So the relationship part was not really there. I felt more like I was supposed to interact with guides or something that took more of a form. And so I was kind of still coming out of that when I started working with Allison. And that shifted entirely because in the course of this, as I started really opening up and having my other senses be more sensitive, I realized that we are absolutely meant to have a personal relationship with God. Yeah. He is all of those things. He, she.
It's so, there's no persona. Yeah. But you're having a deep relationship.
Yes.
Which is such a hard thing for people to grasp. But when you experience it,
it's huge. Yeah. It's everything. It's home.
It is home. And I think that's how you know you're experiencing it, because it's home. You feel this incredible security and knowing and cared for and loved and depth, beyond any kind of human relationship that you can have. Of course, now we're creating and generating that connection right now. Do you feel that come in? It's like, hello. Yes. And of course I have a hot flash open too. Sorry, we'll get back to it.
It's wonderful.
I just turned beet red. Oh.
Wow.
What?
You're so hot. I'm hot.
No, it's terrible.
Oh my gosh, you deal with this all the time?
Oh my God, all the time. For 8 years.
You're on fire.
So part of the most beautiful experiences with awakening is that intimate relationship with the divine.
Definitely.
And so it's personal.
It is. It's entirely personal. And once I started realizing that and accepting that that's what it was, it's changed everything. I'm very thankful to be in a position to be able to have communication, to hear, to smell, to see at times. It is real. It's entirely real. And everyone has the ability to connect with the divine on that level. I think it's just realizing that you can.
Giving yourself permission is the first step. The first step. Because we just did, we recently did that show of on protecting yourself. And it is that intimate relationship with the divine. Nothing else can get in the way. and be in between it. It's almost like a human soul contract that when you want to be with God specifically, it's complete privacy. There's nothing else that can be there. And you have that divine right. And it's one of the greatest gifts we have. I mean, it's the tool I use. I'm like, oh, I'm scared. I'll be in a situation. I'm like, I am freaking out. And then I'm like, hi.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
That's so important to know.
All right. Well, let's meditate. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I don't think so. This was great.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. We're going to meditate just to have a few affirmations to wrap up how we feel.
Okay.
All right. Let's take a deep breath in. And as you breathe, allow your mind to just release the day. Release any other people, energies, and come to your heart. Breathing into the heart and letting go of the stress. And just letting go of the day. Giving yourself permission to be exclusively with the divine, with God. I am personally and exclusively connected to God. I am loved. I am one with the divine. I allow God's love to bring me stability and peace and healing. As I journey into God's love, I allow that feeling of joy to fill up all of me. With every breath I take, I feel God's love and joy and acceptance for all that I am. I am awakening and remembering this divine connection. I am awakening and remembering this divine connection to love, to God, to me. I